We're going to do a clap abroad. Who's going to do the clap?
Yeah, okay. Was it okay? All right.
Do you enjoy talking about your work?
Do I? No, not really. I mean, I enjoy if when I meet somebody who is affected by something I made, and that's enjoyable to hear somebody, talk about something from a personal place. That I enjoy that.
Because I hear two sort of versions of you. One is you're quite a reserved, introverted. You don't want to discuss much, certainly about yourself. On the other hand, I've seen you interviewed in big contexts for big audiences, or even just on talk shows. So, which is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. What was the Torrance Community Dance Group?
Torrance Community Dance Group is a very, very a dance group that I admire deeply. They're based in Torrance, California, and they are a unique set of dancers with a unique set of skills that I was fortunate enough to collaborate with.
Well, how did you get involved with them?
My cousin had a tire shop in Torrance, and Mike, one of the dancers, knew Richard Coffey and the dance troupe and introduced us.
What attracted you to getting in there and dancing with them?
It's just I like their style.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to dance.
Do you?
No.
But you danced with them, and you danced in your videos with them, and how much they are,
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
Uh-uh.
You're not in the video?
No, I'm just a fan.
You're just a fan?
Yeah.
I do see you in it, or am I hallucinating?
Well, no, I guess, yeah, we do look similar.
Because who puts the ghetto blaster back on? That's you.
No, I'm just playing. Yeah, that just came out of I guess thinking the initial. I got a song for Rockefeller Skank, which is Fatboy Slim's. It was another song on his record, and I couldn't do the video, but I was out to dinner with my friend Lance Accord, and he's a cinematographer and an old friend of mine, and we were prepping. We were working on our first movie, being John Malkovich, and we were prepping it, so I couldn't do a video for it, but I had this idea of somebody dancing in front of, dancing in public to that song, Rockefeller Skank. And so I was out to dinner with Lance, and I was telling him the idea, and he was like, "Oh, we should just do that. Why don't you just do that?" And I was like, I don't really have time." And he's like, "Well, let's do it tonight." And so we went and got a video camera and got a boombox and danced in front of the Man's Chinese to Rockefeller Skank, and that was the first one. And then I sent it to Norman Cook. I didn't know him, but I sent him as a fan letter saying, "Hey, I saw somebody dancing in front of Man's Chinese to your song," and I sent him a VHS tape of it, and he thought it was, really, for a long time he thought it was just some random guy dancing to his song.
I've always admired your music videos for seeming to be less about the band or the song, as much as about realizing ideas you could not find a home for anywhere else, and had the notion that they would marry well with the track in question. Is that fair?
Just hold on, sorry.
Sound outside.
It's being outside.
Guido, go. We want to kill him. No, I think. I always thought they were very intertwined with the song. My hope was always that they were very. That they were about the song and the artist, but they were also about the idea, and they were about certainly the feeling of the song, hopefully. But I think I loved, when I first started making music videos, I started thinking about them as the idea of, if you had 3 minutes and this piece of song was the score to an image, that could be any kind of image whatsoever, a scene from a movie or a opening credits to a TV show or anything, what could that image be? And I always thought of music videos as this form where you could do anything as long as it felt true to the song and the feeling of the song, and those were the videos that also sort of excited me the most. That when I'd see them, whether they were by Michel Gondry or Mark Romanek or Chris Cunningham.
Oh mean, actually, those boys I wanted to mention. How much affinity do you feel with them?
Yeah. Well, Michelle and I and Chris and Mark Romanek and Roman Coppola, Mike Mills, like we all came from the same sort of moment in music videos in the '90s, and I think we all like really inspired each other, and we'd see whoever had done, we'd see each other's latest work and get inspired by it, and it was sort of like, with Michelle specifically, like we'd show each other rough cuts and of new stuff we were doing, and it would inform, and then I'd be like, oh, that was cool, and then I would do something else that might, take something I would, steal from Michelle and make my own.
When you first met him,
yeah.
Did you find yourself, you thought, oh, this is the guy I can talk to?
Yeah. The first time, yeah, well, definitely. But although the first time we met was at a show for Cibo Matto, this band that he had done a video for called Sugar Water, and somebody introduced us in his French. His English wasn't that good. He had a real thick French accent, and somebody, I don't know what he said. They said, "Oh, this is Spike. He really wanted to meet you." And I said, "This is Spike." I don't know if they said he's a director or whatever, but somehow he heard he's the bus driver, and so he thought I was the bus driver for the band. And for the first I talked to him for like half an hour, and I was like, "Yeah, I love your work, and I love that video." And I was talking to him all this about all his, asking him all these questions about his work. And he was very curious, like why the bus driver knew so much about his work. And eventually, by the end, he sort of put it together that that I wasn't the bus driver and that I was a director. And because I was like, we should meet up. I'd love to meet with you. Have lunch with you next time you're in town. He's like, okay, yeah. And but eventually we put it together and we had lunch and we ended up talking for like probably 4 hours straight. We just like sat down and like talked about ideas and cameras, and this was like a few years before either of us had directed a movie, and we talked about like producing each other's movies and what movies we wanted to make, and it was definitely like a meeting a brother.
In 2006, I interviewed Jonathan Demme, and I asked him about short films, and he immediately said, Spike Jonze is a filmmaker who's made many 3, 4, 5-minute masterpieces by bringing a certain song or a certain artist to light in a certain way. What's the attraction for those short films? Amongst anyone I've ever spoken to, probably done the most and the best.
Oh.
And really dedicated. You still do them now. You didn't have to.
Yeah. I guess especially. I mean, I guess for one, it's. I guess I just think whatever I get excited by an idea, and an idea, or a feeling for a story or for a character or for something visual, and the idea is always the idea. Sometimes the best version of that idea could be a 3-minute film, or it could be a music video. It doesn't have to necessarily be a movie. And I guess in the past I haven't held a big, like a real, like sort of, oh well, this is a movie, and this is just a video, or this is just a short film, or this is just a skateboard video. I feel like all of them are equal in terms of what I'm excited about and what excites me, and having an idea that's exciting is having an idea that if you like, when you have an idea and you can't think about anything else and you want to make it, that's always what has sort of turned me on the most.
You mentioned Lance Accord just now.
Yeah.
He shot everything for you, as far as I can tell, except her.
As far as the features go, yeah.
Editors and DPs don't often get much space in these conversations.
Yeah.
So give me 2 minutes on Lance and Eric Zungen.
I'd love to. Yeah, it's true. It's funny because whenever I talk about Lance or Eric, Eric our editor, or Jeff our other editor, it often gets cut out because nobody's, it doesn't seem as important, I guess, but it's essentially important to what we make, to making anything, is the cinematographer and the editor, as well as the production designer, costume designer, assistant director. Like they're all, most of this crew I've worked with together now for almost 20 years, and we've all started making videos together and made our first movie together. And but Lance Accord specifically, he's been a real partner and friend, and we I think what I look for in a partner is somebody who's a filmmaker, not somebody who's just obsessed with their thing, like a cinematographer that just thinks about photography. I want us to work with a cinematographer that thinks about the whole picture, and when he's sitting behind the camera, there's nobody with a better viewpoint of what's going on, and whether it's, you know, with the hair and makeup and he can see something that no one else can see, or usually with the performance and the way that a scene is going and the way a scene is being played out. Lance is a filmmaker, and same with Eric Brennan and Jeff Buchanan, who edited this movie, Her. They are filmmakers, and they are, you know, trying to understand what is the story I'm trying to tell, but also really challenging me in terms of how to get there. And it's ultimately my responsibility to know what the movie's about, or what the scene is about, or what the moment is about, but there's not always one way to get there. And Eric, who I've worked with now for 20 years, is a real partner in terms of when you get in the edit room, you always you have all the dreams of what your movie could be and all the dreams of how incredible it's going to be, and then when you're sitting in the edit room, you're faced with the reality of, well, this is what it is, and it's always disappointing, and it's always disheartening at the beginning until you start sort of putting it together and find ways for it to come together and to sort of become what it's going to become. And Eric's a key creator in that process.
Joaquin Phoenix said that one of the things he liked about you is you're a guy who sits next to the camera, leaning forward, doing this, and not peering through the monitor or studying the screen.
Like you're sitting next to the camera, yeah.
Do you do that? And is that part of why do you get on so well with actors?
I think I deeply respect what they do, and sort of and well, not sort of, but definitely in awe of them. I think being an actor is so embarrassing. Like getting, even this is embarrassing. Sitting in front of the camera and talking is embarrassing. But being an actor and having to be in front of a camera and be in front of a crew and cry and laugh and pretend as if a scene is real, and the better they are at it, the more embarrassing it can be because of how far they're willing to go into themselves. And so I think I really respect that, and want to protect it and create an environment where actors are where we have a little bubble of where we can try stuff and make mistakes. And I think with Joaquin specifically on our movie Her, we shot it really small. We had a small crew and kept kind of like this. There's just the 5 of us in this room. A lot of times there wasn't many more people than this when we were shooting, and we want the movie is so intimate. It's this very intimate love story between Joaquin and this being that only exists through a voice, and that Scarlett Johansson plays, I really wanted to create an environment that was as intimate as possible, to try and create a space to allow that his performance to be as intimate as possible.
Being John Malkovich, your first feature, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know, not true, which is possible. What was the transition from short film / music video / commercials to a feature, and what were the main challenges of being John Malkovich?
I think the biggest challenge, I guess the 2 biggest challenges of going from music videos into films, and specific that movie, was just that I didn't know how I'd do with actors. I didn't really know how, I knew that was what I had to I had to focus on. Really, that was the priority. I wanted, and I knew that no matter what it looked like, and no matter what it was designed like, and no matter how great the shots were, it didn't matter if the performances weren't surprising and compelling, and if that movie, I wanted that movie to feel like it was made by the characters as opposed to made by me, and I knew that, or made by us, made by the filmmakers. I wanted it to feel like the characters were the one making these decisions and hurling you forward through that story. And I didn't know if I knew, I knew how to do that, because I hadn't worked with actors in that way. But within the first week, I started to feel like, oh, this is, I don't know, there's something, it's not that far off. It's just, it's the same as sort of, it's playing like everything else that we'd done up to that point. It's just playing with these incredibly talented actors, and all the actors are there to play. And and that I think, and then specific to that movie, I think the hard thing was the tone of the movie and making sure that that the high concept part of the movie never dwarfed the characters, and that the characters were the ones who, as I said before, that the characters were making the story and making their choices in their lives that were making the story, and you believed them, and you felt their thinking and feelings and then thoughts, their thoughts and feelings that sort of made them want to, like this movie with her, like making it feel like that Theodore and Samantha, that Joaquin's character and Scarlett Johansson's characters, are making the decisions. They're falling in love. They're making the mistakes that you make in relationships. They're trying to stumble their way through the the darkness of relationships, and find their way in the way that we all do.
Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
I can't not get. Who is he and what does he do?
I don't know how to say who he is, but as far as who he is to me, he's now he's an old friend of mine. Now we've been friends for over 15 years and worked together and many times. And but he's he's my favorite writer. He's the person who, if I have an idea that I want somebody to challenge in a really interesting way that's going to make it better, I'll call him and talk to him about it and bounce it off of him. And he's a dear friend, but also probably one of the smartest people I know and most creative people I know.
In the 20-something years you've been doing this, what do you think you've learned?
Well, everything. I've learned everything. I mean, I think in 20 years I've learned maybe that I don't know anything, and I just keep trying to learn. And I mean, I get more experienced, and maybe I get better at my craft. But I think, in terms of maybe more confident in terms of how to speak to actors or where to put the camera. But I also know that I don't know anything, and I like going into situations that I don't know. Like with every movie, they're always like, I don't know how to make a movie before I've made it, or I think I'm motivated by the same things of like putting myself in situations that I don't know how to do, and trying to with the help of my friends dig our way out of it, and get something in the end that's as close to the feeling that I set out with as possible.
Are you usually content with what you end up with? I know you always end up with something which is never quite what you thought you were going to start with, usually, unless you're apparently the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
With being John Malkovich, when it came, you're watching the final edit.
Yeah, it's always evolved so much, but I think it's always true to the initial feeling that it was in my head. I think that when I first read the script of Being John Malkovich, I had a certain tone in my head and a certain feeling. And same with this movie. When I first started writing the script, there was a feeling I had, and I'm always trying to go back to that feeling, and like that's a hard thing to hold on to when there's a million voices. But it's always like, I think, like the way I look at my job as a director is that's my job, is to hold on to what the movie's about, and that everybody can have ideas about how to get there. And I work with some of the best actors and filmmakers in my opinion in the world, and that my job is to encourage all of them to give ideas, and it's my job to be the curator of those ideas, of which ideas are right for the film, and which ones are going to get us closer to what the feeling's about to me. And because somebody can have a good idea, but it might not be right for the movie. And so that's my job, to sort of navigate and edit down to the best ideas.